Welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk as we're getting close to the start of the regular season of the NHL. KHL's in full motion, Junior's in full motion. Matt, we're going to jump right into it. Couple more UFAs not holding out anymore because they've signed again for large money. Still two more to go. But, hey, two more down, three more to go, right? Right.
Yeah, we got Julius Honka is still.
Okay. Does he count as a big UFA? I'm not sure. But why don't you start us off in Calgary with Matt Tkachuk?
All right, yeah. So Matthew Tkachuk signed a 3-year, $21 million deal, coming in at a $7 million cap hit. That makes him the highest paid Calgary Flame on the team, which if you look at some of those other deals, they got Johnny Gaudreau on a heck of a deal. He's only making like $6.75 million or something like that. So, of course, they had to go a little bit higher. The big thing, just like those other bridge deals, the third year, he's making $9 million in that year. He'll be in for another big pay raise at the end of his deal. But yeah, 34 goals, 77 points last year. Going to be a heck of a player this year for Calgary.
I didn't think it was possible. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it would happen, but Patrick Laine signs finally with Winnipeg today.
Yes, Patrick Laine, 2 years, $13.5 million, coming in at a $6.75 million cap hit. His second year, he'll be making $7.5 million, which is a little bit lower than some of the other guys. But, of course, he's coming off disappointing season by his standards because he put up –
It begs the question, why was he holding out for so long?
Yeah, because I think he really wanted the big money and the longer-term deal, I want to say. But yeah, I think it just came down to the amount of money that he wanted, I think, because he sees himself as a 40-plus goal scorer. But last year, of course, we all know the 30 goals, but 18 of those came in November.
Five came in one game.
Yeah, and then defensively, he was a minus 24 last year for a really good Jets team. So hopefully he bounces back because his career, he has 110 goals in 237 games in just 3 seasons. So and he's just 1 year removed from a 44 goal season. So if he gets back to that potential, but it's for his game, it's all about finding consistency and being able to produce every night. So it's like a great 2-year bridge deal, and then if he's right back, then he's going to get paid really well.
And I'm going to say it, and you'll hear it here first. Tkachuk and Laine will be two of the first injured players once the season starts. It always happens. It happened to Besser. When you don't go through training camp and you hold out and you come back, I've always seen this with players. They get hurt for a few games, whether it's the groin or something, because they're not ready to go yet.
Well, we'll see. I think Besser, that wasn't exactly his fault.
No, but it might have been though, because he wasn't expecting a hit.
Yeah, well, in a preseason, in a late game like that, I still wish player safety did something. It still boggles my mind that with all the video going around, with a player who turned his back and that far away from the boards, gets concussed. It frustrates me.
Carolina finally trades Justin Falk after lots of talk about him potentially going to Anaheim. He ends up going to St. Louis, and I was a little surprised when I saw that. Joel Edmondson and some other pieces going the other way. Touch us in on that and let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, so Justin Falk went to St. Louis along with a 2020 fifth-round pick, and then Joel Edmondson, Dominic Bach, who was St. Louis's first-round pick in 2018, and a 2021 seventh-round pick went to Carolina. Justin Falk then got a 7-year contract extension with St. Louis for $45.5 million, coming in at a $6.5 million cap hit. Also for this year, Carolina is retaining 14% of Justin Falk's cap hit, which comes in at 4.156 for St. Louis. Also a big thing here is that Falk's actually making $6 million in actual salary, where Joel Edmondson won a 1-year, $3.1 million deal through arbitration this season. For this season, and he also ended up being a healthy scratch in the Stanley Cup final for St. Louis. So I think it was just more He was already on the way out, and I don't think St. Louis wanted to go on a long-term deal with him moving into the future. But Carolina's defense, they needed another bottom left-hand shot on their back end. So I think he'll be on a nice pairing with Trevor Van Riemsdyk on the bottom pairing. And then Justin Falk, I believe he was paired with Alex Pietrangelo in tonight's preseason game. So it's another right-hand shot, but playing on the left-hand side there. So
Top four in St. Louis is looking pretty solid. Joel Edmondson, by the way, played it, I think, in Game 7 against Boston, if I'm not mistaken. He came in because they took out Bortuzzo. They kind of kept switching back and forth. But Edmondson, kind of fun prank there with Carolina when he showed up, and instead of his name plaque on the locker, it said "new guy."
Yeah, I got a great kick out of that. I was just you gotta poke fun right off the bat and break the ice.
Yeah, he probably shook everyone's hand with a Stanley Cup ring on, right? So
yeah, well, with all the rings, the Patrick Maroon. I forgot if we brought it up last episode with him flashing the ring.
Yeah, we did. We brought it up. But a couple of key injuries out there. Also, Craig McTavish getting fired in the KHL. That's not surprising to me. I mean, McTavish to me is an old school coach that's no longer can get the ear of the room. I don't think he can relate to a lot of the younger players today's age. But yeah, fill us in on some of the injuries. And we're going to get to our top 10 list on centers tonight.
Yes, so some injuries. I brought up just earlier, Brock Besser is in concussion protocol, along with Oscar Fontenberg, who also got injured in that game on Monday for the Canucks. Nolan Patrick is dealing with a migraine disorder and is still listed as week to week. He will miss the start of the season for the Flyers. I'm just hoping health-wise that he finally gets better, because even going back to his junior career, he's always been dealing with injuries and stuff like that.
What about is that a fancy way of saying he's got a concussion? He's got a migraine disorder.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's separate from a concussion. I'd have to look up all the medical term stuff.
I really wanted the Canucks, by the way, that year to win the lottery and get either Hershire or Patrick. Thank God we didn't, because we got Elias Pettersson at number 5.
Yeah, because even those other guys, like you probably go Heiskanen and Makar and Pettersson, who all went 3, 4, 5, would probably actually be the top 3 picks now in that draft, which is.
Although Hershire's played pretty good since he's coming to the NHL, of course.
Yeah. I give him credit there, but I'm just saying I think I'd rather take Makar or Heiskanen actually over him, and of course Pettersson. Mm-hmm. Some other injuries. Corey Perry looks like he's going to be out at least another week. Dealing with that fractured foot. Brandon Dubinsky with Columbus is going to be out long-term with a wrist injury. David Krejci with Boston is dealing with a lower body injury. He's going to miss at least the start or the rest of the preseason with Boston. And hopefully he'll be ready for the preseason, because, of course, Patrice Bergeron and some of those other guys have been dealing with injuries throughout training camp and preseason. Ryan,
by the way, going back to that draft, it reminded me of how salty Canuck fans were that the Canucks didn't draft Cody Glass. And those same Canuck fans are like on the Jim Benning bandwagon now.
I know. Well, for me, it's just like I wanted Cody Glass, but when they picked Pettersson, it's like I didn't know anything about him really. Yeah. So I was just like, I didn't know how to react. So it was just sort of like, okay.
Yeah, I was like, who? Ole Juolevi? No. Because as we know, a couple of years prior, they took Ole Levy instead of Matt Tkachuk, right?
Oh, man, yeah. There's just so many guys after, like, I think Clayton Keller after 2 in that draft. I forget who else, but yeah, there's just so many guys they could have taken over Juolevi.
And I think that's what happens when fan pressures management to draft for position rather than talent. I think that's what happened that draft, because the fans were screaming for a defenseman.
Yeah, and if you really look at Juolevi in that draft year, he actually did have a really good year with London, and especially at the World Juniors there as well, with especially on that stacked Finnish team at the World Juniors. So,
I'm hoping he gets through some of his injuries and actually turns into a player.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing. Because I'm guessing he would have gone into some NHL games last season if it wasn't for that season-ending injury. And one last injury update: Ryan Pelling has been cleared for contact at practice for Montreal. He still has to get cleared by doctors to get into actual games, but luckily it was a quick recovery for him there.
Real quick, Nick Suzuki make Montreal or not?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. I'm with some of the guys I sent down, with some like Dale Weiss, Matthew Peck, and Carl Alsner, all got sent down to the American League. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Suzuki's going to make that team. I've from some of the highlights I've seen. I haven't seen any actual games, but from the highlights, he's looked absolutely incredible this preseason so far. And I think like Jonathan Drouin's actually had a pretty disappointing season because I saw there's some like rumor or something like he was on the trade block or something like that. Bergevin shut it down and stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he might even start in the top 6 to start the season there.
Seattle hires their scouting staff. Why don't you fill us in on that news?
Yeah, so they hired Ulf Samuelsson, Dave Hunter, Stu Barnes, John Goodwin, and Cami Granato. And Granato became the first ever female pro scout in NHL history to be hired. And of course, Granato is actually the wife of Ray Ferraro with TSN. And but yeah, congrats to her.
Well, and I believe they live in Kootenay, so they're close to a few different arenas there.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if she's in charge of Western Hockey League games.
And
natural rivalry, by the way, between Seattle and Boston now. Ulf Samuelsson and Cam Neely.
I know, yeah. Well, actually, I'm not sure if you saw it tonight, but Ryan Johansson scored the OT winner in Carolina tonight. And he actually did the walk-off right to the dressing room, which he did last year when he scored the OT winner for Nashville. So I was just like, I couldn't believe that happened two straight preseasons in a row where he scored the OT winner, turn, and walk off the ice to the dressing room. Absolutely hilarious. And one last or two last things I'll bring up. I just want to send best wishes to Guy Lafleur, who had quadruple bypass heart surgery, which went really well. So just wishing a fast recovery to Guy Lafleur. And also, of course, the big thing that will end before we get to our top 10 list, Austin Matthews was charged for disorderly conduct, which happened in late May. And Kyle Dubas actually came out and said, like, he actually didn't even know about it until the actual report came out. But we won't get into the details because we don't know for sure what exactly happened. Like, we heard rumors that it was around like 2 a.m. And stuff, and he's probably with some of his friends.
Well, yeah, it sounded like it was a group of friends. They were intoxicated. They tried to get into a lady's car when she was in there, and she had locked the doors, and they still tried to force their way into the car. So, of course, she's freaking out. And then apparently Austin Matthews thought it was a good idea to have a full moon. Is he captain material for you?
I know, yeah, because like he would have been my favorite for the C before this incident. Like there's so like the thing is there's so many great picks. Like you got Tavares if you want to go the veteran route. Morgan Riley.
I keep hearing Tavares and Riley as the other two.
Yeah, and then of course like everybody wants to throw Mitch Marner in there as well. But I think either Tavares or Riley I think are my top 2 picks. Like you don't want to go like Matthews like his name will still be up there, but like it's just bad timing.
Yeah, I think Tavares has gone about his business the right way. With Nylander and Marner holding out and Matthews with this crap now, I think it's wise to not have those guys involved. They're just not, mature enough or ready enough for it. But at the end of the day, Mike Babcock said they'll know by Wednesday. Everyone will know by Wednesday or at least by Christmas time, he said.
Well, I'm still waiting for the Canucks to name Bo Horvat team captain, but like I don't even know when. Like
I keep hearing that's going to happen, but they're going to announce it before the season starts.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Or during the opening part of the announcements in Game 1.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because I apparently they're gonna have like some huge presentation for the 50th anniversary before the home opener on. Well, I forgot if they start on the road for their first game or not, but for the home opener.
They started in Edmonton. I heard, by the way, today Jonathan Toews was in an interview and they asked him who the hardest player was to play against in the NHL right now, and he said Bo Horvat without a doubt. Because
I heard about that one.
Yeah, and that surprised me a little bit, but coming from Captain Sirius, I thought that was good praise for Bo Horvat for sure.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that basically wraps up all the news from the past few days here.
All
But
right,
yeah,
well let's get into the final list, the top 10 list of centers, and it's probably been the hardest list that we've done yet. Um, Whether we have the same 10 or not, it's going to be interesting.
now I'll be
But
interested on the
let's just
players.
jump right in. Let's jump right into it.
All
Um, I'll go first this time. I think
right,
you've
sounds
gone
good.
first the last few times. So, starting with the full mooner from Toronto, number 10, Austin Matthews. Great hockey player. No need for the off ice stuff. Hopefully, lesson learned. Hopefully, he picks better people to hang out with. I hate seeing the younger people get caught with the wrong crowd, but still, you can't take away from him being a better hockey player than that. He would have been higher up my list, but my number 9 is a guy that consistently beats him every year in the playoffs. The guy that's, every year I try to find a way to make sure he's on my top 10. But Patrice Bergeron, one of the most complete hockey players in the NHL, centers in my opinion, the top line in the NHL with Marchand and Pastrnak. Bergeron does it all. He kills penalties. He plays the power play. He wins important faceoffs. He blocks shots. He does all those little things that you love to see. And then, of course, my number 8 out of Tampa Bay, Braden Point, just re-signed. Obviously, got some big money, but he put up pretty close to 100 points, I think, last year, 97, if I'm not mistaken. Welcome back to Tampa, Braden Point. So my number 10, Austin Matthews. Number 9, Patrice Bergeron. And my number 8, Braden Point.
Yeah. Braden Point, 41 goals, 92 points last year, and led the league with 20 power play goals as well. So, but yeah,
Hard to leave him off my top 10. So
I know, yeah. Well, yeah. So our lists are going to be definitely a little different, or at least different order-wise. That's for sure. But my number 10 from the Winnipeg Jets, Mark Scheifele, 38 goals, 84 points last season. Plays on both special teams. Just averaged just below 22 minutes a night for Winnipeg, and was a big part of their. I think they were 5th overall for their power play. 12 power play goals last year.
still a really good power play. Nobody wanted to play.
Oh yeah, and the playoffs. He had 2 goals, 5 points last year. Just a great all around centerman. And of course him and Blake Wheeler are part of that great duo there in Winnipeg. My number 9, you just brought him up, Austin Matthews. Great season last year. Still dealing with those injuries, which keeps him a little bit lower. But yeah, 37 goals, 73 points last year. And had a huge playoffs as well, 5 goals in 7 games last year. His shot is unbelievable when he gets it off, and we've seen it throughout this preseason as well. So with a couple really nice goals, and I think if he does stay healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if he's pushing. At least the 40 goal, 80 point mark, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for the 50-50. If not this season, but at least in the next couple of seasons. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that mark. And my number 8 from the Pittsburgh Penguins, you have Evgeny Malkin. Last year, it was a disappointing season for him by his standards. Like, he was still over a point a game, but 21 goals, 72 points in 68 games. But he was a minus 25. He was not good in his own zone whatsoever. Which was also, I think, part of the Phil Kessel effect.
And you still made your top 10 list.
Oh yeah. Well, it's Geno Malkin, man. I cannot have him not on my top 10 list. I'm from what I've heard. There was a great story on Athletic that over I think actually earlier this month. There was a great story on him, and I think he is very motivated going into this season because he wants to get rid of the Phil Kessel thing about him bringing down his game and all that. And when Malkin's on his game, there's no better.
When he's on his game, he's one of the best in the world, 100%.
Yeah, he's just a workhorse, and nobody can stop him. So my number 10, Mark Scheifele. Number 9, Austin Matthews, and number 8, Geno Malkin.
Evgeny. All right, my list. So back to my list. Number 7 from the Tampa Bay Lightning, Steven Stamkos, the Stammer. Um, man, he's one of those guys that silently does. He silently puts up almost 100 points every single year. And obviously, I think this year he did, right? He put up over 100 points.
No, he finished 2 points short. He was at 98. He was so
Yeah.
close.
I assume because he plays with Kucherov a lot that he might have done it because Kucherov, of course, had an incredible point season. But I knew Stamkos was around the 100-point mark. But he's one of those guys that could do 50 and 50 as well, like Austin Matthews potentially can. Obviously, he's won the Rocket Richard, and and I actually look at him now as more of a passer than a goal scorer. And he's playing more center now than he ever has been because they had him on the wing for a long time there. But that's my number 7, Steven Stamkos. My number 6, you already talked about him, Mark Scheifele from the Winnipeg Jets. I love what he does. I love that he's one of those guys. He's one of those rare guys in the NHL that never swears. He always yells, a different F word. You mentioned how good Austin Matthews' shot is. Mark Scheifele, when he's on, has a heck of a shot as well, and centers that top line. You mentioned Wheeler and him. I think Kyle Connor is a great player to have on that line as well. That line's one of the nicest to watch. He's got more respect for me because of the playoffs from a couple seasons ago. He's up higher on my list than I think I would have even expected. But my number 5, John Tavares from Toronto. So 2 Tampa, 2 Toronto on my list. It pains me to do that because there's so many great centers out there. But John Tavares, he would have been on my list whether he was on Toronto or not because last year he was on my list as an Islander before he obviously got moved to Toronto. But Tavares is a complete player. I think he would be the best captain in Toronto. So my number 7, Steve Stamkos. Number 6, Mark Scheifele. Number 5, John Tavares.
All right. Well, we'll hear a couple similar names here then. My number 7, John Tavares. Career season in his first year with the Leafs, 47 goals, 88 points. Him and Mitch Marner formed an unstoppable duo last season. Yeah, you brought it up. Complete player. Only 10 of his 47 goals came on the power play last year, which just shows his versatility at 5-on-5. It's not about special teams. He does it at both ends of the ice. He was a +19, where Austin Matthews was actually a -9 last season, just showing the differential there in his all-around game. My number 6, you just brought him up as well, Steven Stamkos. From the Tampa Bay Lightning, 45 goals, 98 points last year, so close to that 100-point mark. And as I brought up earlier, Braden Point had those 20 goals on the power play. Well, Steven Stamkos was right behind him with 19 on the power play. The top-ranked power play.
That's a tough power play to play against.
Man, it's just there's 39 goals just in between and you're not even talking about Kucherov and the rest of the guys on that top-ranked power play last year. But yeah, just you want to talk about he like earlier in his career it was all about the goal scoring. He had that 60-goal season, but now he's more of a complete all-around player. I won't be surprised if he could be a 50-50 guy this year in Tampa Bay. And then getting to my number 5. I absolutely love this guy. He's no longer the most underrated player in the NHL anymore. That label's gone from the Florida Panthers. Alexander Barkov, 35 goals, 96 points, averaged over 22 minutes of ice time last season. Last night. He plays both special teams. He does it all. He had 100 takeaways in the NHL and was a +31 differential between giveaways and takeaways. Also won over 1,000 faceoffs last season, and that top line with Huberdeau and Dandenov, just great. And I really hope that Florida does make the playoffs this year because with the way that he plays, just all around, and also only 8 penalty minutes last season as well, which is crazy. Like to average over 22 minutes of ice time per night and only take 4 minor penalties is just insane in my mind. So number 7, John Tavares. Number 6, Steven Stamkos. Number 5, Alexander Barkov.
Well, my number 4 is Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers. I think we would know more about him. People would see more about him or hear more about him if he was in a different hockey market. But because he's in Florida, we don't hear about him enough. But he would be a huge deal if he was playing in Toronto or Montreal or something like that, because he is the complete package. I think he will crack the 100-point mark this year. I think Florida is going to make a big push for the playoffs this year, and it's because of him and his consistent play with that top line, Alexander Barkov. For me, number 3 is one of the most exciting players in the NHL, center of the big line out of Colorado, Nathan MacKinnon. The MacKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen line was unreal last year, and they were fun to watch in the playoffs. Man, MacKinnon skates so fast, and when he's skating, he's moving his hands all the time too. So you don't know if he's going to shoot, pass, or just keep skating. And I love what he does. Not quite good enough to make my top 2. Obviously, the 2 big dogs are still there. But number 4, Alexander Barkov from the Florida Panthers, and number 3, Nathan MacKinnon, the Tim Hortons man from the Colorado Avalanche.
All right. I think this will be our biggest differential. Will be my number 4 is Patrice Bergeron of the Boston Bruins. Last year, he would have had over 90 points if he had stayed healthy, but he had 32 goals, 79 points in just 65 games, and also had a huge playoffs last year. 9 goals, 17.
I love him. He's one of my favorite players. So
yeah, it's just he's up for the Selke every year. I know he didn't win it last year, losing out to Ryan O'Reilly. Then once when you get to face-offs, he is the best in the NHL in my eyes. He had a 56.6% rate in the regular season, and then in the playoffs, he was up to 58.7% in the draw. Both ends of the ice. Takeaways, he was a plus 15, 42 takeaways last year. He can do it all. He's shorthanded. He had 4 shorthanded goals last year, and then on the power play, Boston power play was great last year as well. I think our top 3 are going to be the same. We'll see which we have as our 2 and 1. My number 3 from the Colorado Avalanche, Nathan MacKinnon. He was so close to that 100-point mark. 41 goals, 99 points. He was just fell a point short there. He led the league last year in shots on goal with 365 shots on goal. That is insane. I think
he's unbelievable to watch live too if you ever get a chance. So.
Well, yeah, that's on my bucket list this year, is to see when Colorado comes to Vancouver this year, is to see those big 3 in Rantanen, MacKinnon, and Landeskog. And of course, Cale Makar is the big rookie there that I want to see as well. He averaged just over 22 minutes of ice time per game as well. I just about said a night again. He was huge on the power play as well with those guys. In the playoffs, he took it to another level once again, especially in that Calgary series. They couldn't stop him. Like it is just you basically do what he wanted when he wanted on the ice. I just can't wait to see what he has in store this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he's around that 45, 50 goal mark and pushing over 100 points. Number 4, Patrice Bergeron. Number 3, Nathan MacKinnon.
Just to touch on some of our notables that missed the list. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll go quick because I know you have a lot, but just more or less say the names. Mine are in order of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to go Ryan O'Reilly, St. Louis Blues, Gino Malkin, who was your number 8, Tyler Seguin from the Dallas Stars, Sebastian Aho from Carolina Hurricanes, and Jack Eichel from the Buffalo Sabres.
All right, yeah. So I have 15 names that would consider. So Jack Eichel, huge season. He finally stayed healthy. Sean Monahan with Calgary, Sebastian Aho, of course, with Carolina. Jonathan Toews, a career season last year with 81 points, perfect in his 2-way game. Tyler Seguin, another huge season with Dallas. Dylan Larkin, I believe, is actually a big center to watch this season with Detroit. Anze Kopitar, I know he had a disappointing season, but he's always one of my favorite two-way players. Matthew Barzal, of course, with the New York Islanders. Sean Couturier with Philadelphia. He's also an excellent face-off man. He was actually over 57% in the draw last year.
I found out why that is, though. I found out he takes all the draws on his backhand, and Giroux takes all the draws on the other side.
That really works. Yeah, especially having like two natural center icemen on the same line like that. Okay, yeah, because I saw that. I was like,
it's starting to catch on. That's why I think Toronto's doing it now, because the assistant coach from Philadelphia from last year, I believe, is in Toronto implementing that same thing.
Okay, yeah,
that's why they've moved Jason Spezza, I think, to the wing. So,
Ryan O'Reilly, of course, with St. Louis, huge season. Talk about winning a trade right off the bat. 77 points. His face-off percentage was just below 57% last year.
He's right up there like a Patrice Bergeron in my eyes. And close to cracking his top 10 list.
And talking about two-way play, I was looking at the giveaway takeaways. He had 94 takeaways, but the differential plus 61 between takeaways and giveaways, which is crazy. Logan Couture, of course, with the San Jose Sharks, usually around that 70-point mark, but when it comes to the playoffs, as we saw last year, always takes his game to a whole new level with 14 goals last year in the playoffs. Braden Point, of course, with Tampa Bay. Elias Pettersson, I got to share some love. I think after the end of this season, he's going to be pretty close to cracking the top 10 list as long as everything goes. And, of course, the two big dogs with Washington and Nicholas Backstrom and Evgeny Kuznetsov. Yeah, there's just so many great centers in the NHL. So it's just like I was trying to limit down to about 5 names. I'm just like I just gotta throw these names out there because they need some love.
To wrap up our top 10, our final two guys, I'm actually the reverse order that I was last year. Last year, this guy was my number one, the captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby, and of course my number one, Mark Messier. No, I'm kidding. Connor McDavid from the Edmonton Oilers, or some people like to call him McJesus. This guy is so fast and so skilled. He's incredible to watch as well. But for me, they're still neck and neck. I mean, Crosby gets it done in lots of different areas on the ice, but excitement-wise, McDavid is super fun to watch, and I hope Edmonton one day finds a way to get him some surrounding cast outside of Leon Draisaitl.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of Mark Messier, I was actually at a Boston Pizza here in Abbotsford, and they actually had a signed Mark Messier Vancouver Canuck jersey on the wall. It's like I just looked. I'm just like, why is that there? That should be burned in the garbage.
Mike Keenan didn't take it with him when he left town.
Oh man, but Sidney Crosby is my number two. He was, of course, my number one as well last year. 100 points last year. He just does it consistently every single season. I actually totally forgot. Did we bring up that? That his jersey was retired in the queue.
I totally did not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just to bring it all around. His number 87 was retired by Rimouski, and the entire QMJHL tonight. He actually got a standing ovation that lasted over 5 minutes, and it actually teared him up. Which, when you think of Crosby, you don't usually see those emotions not that often. And I was just going back because I was just like, I wanted to see his junior numbers, because you always like going back just to see what those guys had, because remember Patrick Kane was getting his jersey retired by the London Knights, and we brought his numbers up. But yeah, in his draft eligible year for Rimouski, 66 goals, 102 assists for 168 points in only 62 games. That's a 2.71 points per game in his draft eligible year, which is just insane. So yeah, just another huge congrats to Crosby. And of course, we bring it up every year, just how great he is. Of course, number one, Connor McDavid with the Edmonton Oilers. Huge season last year, 41 goals, 116 points in 78 games. What can you say? Speed kills, and what he can do at speed with his goal scoring, and him and Draisaitl are an incredible duo.
McKinnon's catching up on the speed side, I find.
Oh,
That's one of the reasons why I like watching McKinnon so much as well.
and McDavid, he was so close to averaging 23 minutes a night. He was at 22 minutes and 50 seconds per night. 240 shots on goal last year, 9 game winning goals. And he played a little bit shorthanded as well. Not as often as I think he'll play this year, but yeah, he's just incredible to watch and what he does. Yeah, I can talk about speed all day with him, but yeah, number 2 Crosby, number 1 Connor McDavid.
So that's our top 10 list for centers. Like and comment below. Let us know what your top 10 list is. And, tell us where we're wrong. Maybe you like one of our lists better. Maybe your list is better. Let us know. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube or our Facebook page, B&B Hockey Talk. Matt, final word. We're almost out of time. I'll leave it to you to end the show.
All right, yeah. So we're all caught up on highlights and everything from tonight on our Facebook page. Monday when we do our show, we'll probably do a season preview for the entire NHL, just because the regular season starts on Tuesday.
Finally, it's almost here.
Yes. Oh man, this preseason it just dragged and dragged. But yeah, we're so close. Yeah. So Monday we should have our season preview. And yeah, of course, you can see all the highlights or big funny news and all that on our Facebook page at B&B Hockey Talk.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone, for listening and tuning us in. Remember to tell your friends about us, follow us, give us a like, give us a share on your Facebook page, or hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Better yet, don't hit it just because you love us so much. Share the heck out of it. All right. Have a good day, and we'll see you guys next week when the real games start.